meeting. We'll start off tonight's meeting with a roll call vote of attendance, just as the roll call people who are here, and then I'll go describe the meeting procedures as usual. So let's go down the list here. Mr. Paff.
Here.
Mr. DeLay. Ms. Conant.
It was here a second ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to her because I did see her on there. So Mr. Gotti.
Here.
And I'm David Atkins. I'll be chairing the meeting tonight, and just going to keep an eye out for Ms. Conant since when she can join us. Let me pull up I switched my computer here, so I don't have all the materials in front of me. So let me pull up the opening intro. So I welcome everyone to the Westwood Planning Board meeting. All meetings of the Planning Board are recorded by Westwood Media Center and live cast on local Verizon channel 42 and Comcast 12, and they are live streamed on YouTube. So when we'd ask that when people are unmuted, please turn off your cell phone ringers to eliminate background noise. We start the meeting with the board members and the professional staff unmuted and on video. And as I recognize individuals to speak, I'll unmute them and ask board members to unmute themselves while they're speaking and to mute themselves to avoid background noise. So the process for our meetings is that we have three different types of agenda items. Typically, we consider applications that have been submitted to the board, and we conduct a public hearing about that, and there'll be there's a public comment portion. We have other applications and discussions where it's not a formal public hearing, and the public may have an opportunity to comment at the board's discretion. And then we have administrative items like meeting minutes and other items like when we're talking about what we're planning to do at the next meeting and all that we discuss those issues, and there may or may not be a public comment part to that. So prior to each agenda item, the chair will announce the item and provide a little bit of descriptive context. And then for applications, we will invite the applicant to come address the board and give a presentation summarizing what they are requesting. Board members have already received the application materials in advance, so we are able to review the materials, and then we will ask questions of the applicant. We'll have possible presentation by staff, by professional staff members or peer review consultants, and then we'll proceed to a public comment portion for public hearings, and I will restate the instructions for how people can participate. The way that people can participate is through Zoom. There's a raise your hand button. There's also a chat area, so you can say I would like to speak, and we'll keep track of who's requesting to speak, and we'll unmute them and allow them to speak, or I will read the questions if there's Q&A questions people enter. If you're on the phone, then you press *9 to request to be unmuted. So when we get to that portion of the meeting, I will reiterate this, and we'll do that. I notice sometimes people will ask questions throughout the meeting, and so I'm going to hold those questions until we reach the public participation part of that, because it's a little difficult to kind of be reading all the questions and responding while the meeting's going on. So another thing is that due to the COVID, the fact that all of our remote meetings, all our meetings are remote now, so they require that votes be by roll call. So I'll go through every time we have a vote, and I'll ask everyone for their vote. Also, as we have the presentations and discussions, I'll call on people, board members, to make sure that they have an opportunity. But you can also just jump in, and we tend to it can be kind of informal. So, or it can be but I'll call on people as we wish, and then we have a discussion. We'll have a vote, and that's our process. As I'm winging it here, kind of. So, are there any changes to the agenda items? Abby, do we have anything change?
No changes.
And let me just check again. Did Ms. Conant join us?
Yep.
Okay, so, and Mr. DeLay did not join us. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is a discussion item here. It's not actually a public hearing, but it's a discussion item, a minor modification request from Petruzziello Properties, 282 to 296 Washington Street. And so we'll have, who's the applicant here to present?
Hi, good evening. This is Giorgio Petruzziello. I'm the president of Petruzziello Properties. We also have, I think Mike McKay should be on this as well.
I am.
Okay. So Mike, if you want to go ahead and talk about why we're here and
Okay.
changes we have to make.
Abby, if you could share the drawings,
Okay. Yeah.
that would be great. During the development of the Islington mixed-use design, as we've been developing the drawings, we we're proposing a couple of changes, and just wanted to review those with the board. The lower drawing in the two, this is the Washington Street elevation, is the drawing that was submitted and went through the RFP and the planning board process 18 months ago. The drawing above is our proposal to meet. I guess there's two parts to it. The first portion of it is the ground level and the storefront. Instead of small windows, narrow windows, we're proposing more of a storefront feel to it. It is a commercial use. The ground floor is all retail and commercial. During the development of the project, Giorgio has had several tenants looking at how the exposure, and sometimes there may be a little bit of a confusion between, is it a residential building or is it a commercial building? And it's clearly this is a mixed use. So the proposal is to go with more glass, more ground floor glass, keeping the awnings above. So there's no change with that, but so that first level retail would have more storefront glazing in between the pilasters. And that shows up on this elevation and the next, but I guess this one would be a good opportunity to talk about the other proposed change. You can see there's some window fenestration changes. When we first presented the design, we didn't have unit plans worked out. We had unit plans, sort of general layout, but we didn't have bedrooms and building code review. In this, the lower drawing shows our proposed windows, and as we've developed the design to get egress, you can see the one that Abby's pointing at. That window would be the only window in that unit, so we needed additional both for ventilation, egress, and just to get windows inside. This project, if some of you may remember, if you weren't part of the process, all of the mechanical equipment is hidden behind this parapet, so that this flat roof, there's a flat roof beyond it. So everything is, we're limited in terms of what we can put up in this building. We were taking the original, the ICC design and using that as our design inspiration. We were never copying the church. That was never never the goal. It was more of an inspiration, and we're still, in fact, we are reusing the spire. We're going to remove it. It's structurally sound. We were, both Giorgio and myself, structural engineer. We're inside the spire. It's in excellent shape, so it's going to be removed by crane and restored and put back in place in the pretty similar location, almost exactly the same location. But the thought was that it was never mimicking the church. It was more of an inspiration. So I think these windows still have that, an arch top, but it's just a little bit more glass to let into the unit. Abby, if you wouldn't mind going to the next drawing. So this is the that is East Street, or as you're approaching from Washington Street. This elevation looks like it's one big mass. The renderings really showed it differently. There's a lot of stepping back. The actual gable of what was the ICC building is where the spire is the portion that sticks out. Everything else steps back. Some of it as much as 50 feet, but this was the way the drawing was presented. We thought we'd just keep it the same way. So you can see the storefront, the ground level storefront proposed changes, and also the additional windows. The original church had a louver in the gable. We had proposed a round window. Again, we just didn't have enough windows inside the unit to make it work, and with the mechanical equipment kind of sticking behind all of this, it just worked out. It forced us into adding this proposal. So we presented this to Abby, and it was her thought that we should come in front of you, and we're still developing the drawings in terms of final window details. We have submitted for permit. For the most part, foundation permit is what we're hoping to get started on. But that's a quick summary. In terms of materials, nothing's changed. You can see on the original proposed, it shows that's a brick base. We still have the brick base, and just the upper drawing show it's just not colored, but that we still have the brick base, and the siding material is the same. All the trim details are the same. It's just a little bit of a different window proposal. So that's just a quick review. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Shall we go to board member questions? Let's see, Mrs. Conant, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. You're saying you're going to put shed dormers at the attic level. Is that going to increase the square footage of the building, of the units?
It did not increase the square footage. It was just added windows to the units. It did not add square footage to certainly no additional unit area. We still have storage up there, and so no, it does not add square footage.
So that was always living space?
It was always living space.
And the round top window flanked by the double hung, I'm sorry, you said you're going to replace the round window in the gable and replace it with a round top flank double hung for emergency egress. That's also living space right there?
Yes, that was also to let additional light into the unit, but it's the round top window would not be an egress window. The round window that we originally proposed in the design would not be an egress window, but the double hungs would be emergency escape.
So all of this it's all living space. It's nothing new.
That's correct.
And on the approved architectural design, I don't know if that picture's in there. It was on the information that was sent to us. It shows on the far left an entrance door and 2 windows, but I don't see it on that very first picture that you showed us. If you go back to the, let's see if I can pull it up on my computer. It was the very first picture that you put up.
Okay.
If you go back to that, when you look at the architectural designs, it shows 2 windows above a canopy with a door on the far left-hand side. Is that still there or no?
I'm sorry if I'm on the upper drawing, the proposed permit drawing.
So so in our packet, we'd received the approved architectural designs. So you're not going to have a door in that far left-hand side at all?
No, there is. I think that we've changed the access points to the 4 that are shown, and that still may change. We may come back if there is a tenant, we had, I think what we showed was, we showed a lot of doors and we organized the entry points to 4 locations, is what we're proposing now. And that potentially could change as a tenant it comes on board.
So all the windows that you're putting, I like the open windows in the bottom level, but will any of them be able to open up to say outdoor dining if need be, or?
We didn't have anything proposed on the left side. We had always anticipated dining on the right underneath the canopy, and that's where we have doors. Yeah, where Abby is pointing. So
Right.
On the other side elevation, we also have doors there. So that was where, that was always our thought, was that would be a cafe or
For outdoor dining?
outdoor dining, correct. We do have, just for, there are side doors on the, where Abby's pointing now, in between the old CVS and the new mixed use building. There would be side doors there that could add potentially for a patio. That is all at sidewalk grade, that hatched area
Okay,
is all sidewalk elevation.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Paff, do you have a question or?
Yeah, I did. Mike, can you reiterate, what are you proposing to put in between the entrances on the first floor?
It would be storefront glazing, basically all glass. It would be white framed storefront with glazing, just much more glass than originally proposed to make it feel more commercial. I think that was one of the concerns from tenants that have been looking at it, that it just didn't feel like a commercial space. And we still, again, I think it's all anchored by these wood piers, or strong piers that make it look like it's holding up the building. That's the real concern that I always look for, and I think that's something we're keeping. But it's all storefront glazing.
And where did you say the mechanicals are going to be? On a flat roof?
It's on a flat roof, but you can't see it here. We have a lot of detail on it, but it's all it's sloped roof going from the cornice line slope, just like it looks now, basically. And then there would be a parapet, and it drops down 42 inches, and the equipment's behind there.
That's what I was going to ask, how tall that was. 42, 3.5 feet?
42, yeah. And similar to what we did at the 321 Washington Street, and we've done it, several other locations where it's successful. It hides the equipment, number one, but also cuts down on the noise dramatically. It's a major decibel killer when you add that parapet.
Right. It's just hard to tell on these renderings.
It is, and it wasn't really the intent, because we really have that defined. We have drawings that detail it, but I didn't send that whole package along.
I like looking at what the earlier drawings. I like how there's less windows on the second floor. I think it looks a little busy on the first one, so I was happy to see that. And the dormers, I completely understand, to make it more functional, to better use the space and lets natural light into the units. Turning around to the East Street elevation, it looks like there are a couple of awnings sticking out kind of towards the train bridge direction. Do we have an elevation from that side showing those?
It's I did not send that. It's exactly what it was shown before. It's the entrance to the residential area. It's stepped back dramatically again. It's
yeah, each one is stepped back from the steeple side of
correct.
it. I was just
the
curious.
steeple is the prominent. The gable of the steeple is the prominent, and then it steps back, and then it goes about 28 feet, and then it steps back another 40 feet almost. The building really has some dramatic change in plane, and that elevation drawing really shows it flat. We had renderings from the And we did not include that in this package again. We were just looking at the flat elevation, but those awnings are facing the back parking lot and they're residential. One of them is a residential entrance. It's the exact spot where it's always been.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Chris. Mr. Gotti, do you have any questions? Or
No, I think between what Deb was asking about the retail windows, I think those will do a very nice job from a merchandising standpoint to be able to draw tenants, whether you're talking, stores or restaurants. More light is better generally for all of them, and to be able to merchandise product. So I think it creates a nice distinction between residential and retail. I had a similar question on the awnings that Chris just touched on. The only other thing that I was going to ask about was the far left on the Washington Street. That looks a little bit different there, where there's a couple of windows, and it looks to be, I don't know, a difference in I can't tell if that's a lower roof line or what that was. What was that change there?
There is a lot going. Again, that steps back dramatically. It's by the stairway. When we looked at that site plan, there's a patio that extends back. So that's the stair. We just added windows into the stairway all the way back at the edge. That's, again, probably 40 feet, 50 feet back. But again, it's a flat drawing, so it's hard to distinguish that on the elevation. But that's the stairway all the way back. We just added windows.
Fair enough.
Let some light into the stair. One of them, the top window, is the roof, so the stair just goes down, and then at the mid-level there's like a landing in between, so that's why it's a smaller window. It's but a 3x3 window that just letting light, so it wasn't a blank wall. I guess we didn't like the blank wall that shows below.
Sure, makes sense. Okay, that's it for me, Dave.
let's see, I had a couple of questions. So I'm just curious, the condos are on both levels, right? So that in the original design, there would have really been no windows looking out onto Washington Street. And so what were they, and there's the mechanicals behind them, right? So how was that gonna, am I missing something in there? Were there windows on the back that looked out into the?
We had windows in the back and the sides, but it just wasn't enough, frankly. It wasn't, I think the design wasn't developed enough to solve the problem. And as we've gone through it, we've been working on it pretty much for a year, and it's gone back and forth many iterations within, between Giorgio, his father, and our office, and it's just got that we just needed more windows, basically, and we thought it looked better too. That was the
Yeah, so I agree with some of the comments about the more glass on the first floor, and so I think that Washington Street elevation, the only thing, I mean, the windows in the middle there with the kind of the two small windows, it does look rather, it doesn't look very colonial. I don't know, but I think that's, again, you can probably, as you get into the design, it's similar to the original. I don't know what the right word is, but it's just like there's a single arched window in the original on the Washington Street side of the third floor, and now it looks kind of. I don't know. It could be made to look a little more harmonious or something, but it's a small thing. The East Street elevation, though, the original. It looks like a church. It has that circular, originally it has the venting, and now with this, it had like the cross in there, and that's replaced again with that sort of 3-window thing. So I don't know if, I liked the original design better. I mean, it seemed to be more vertical looking, like it just sort of, this is kind of squashed, but I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on that, or so that's my only additional comment there, I think. I like the original, the way that it looks from East Street is you have the steeple and you have everything kind of going up for the church part of it. And I think with the windows added in there, it's kind of heavy looking in there. So I don't know. It may just be the size of that window or the particular design. I don't know. But
Are you talking about the one window over the front door on the gable, or the whole, the shed dormer approach?
I think it's the gable is the way I see it. And I was, as you were talking, Mr. Chairman, I was thinking that there may be an option that we could provide. I'm not sure, what's the best route to do that. But if we were to look at doing something more vertical, it always takes that's what's great about other people looking at drawings. It's as soon as you say it, it does lose some of its verticality, and then there may be a different configuration in that window. I think what we did is we took the one that was in the front, which we thought fit well, put it on the side, but maybe there is another option we could
Yes, you-
explore. Maybe we submit to Abby to get feedback. I think there may be another. I like the verticality thought. I guess that's the.
you see what I'm saying there. It
Yeah.
looks kind of that triangular space. So you've got the
Right.
door from East Street, and then above that are the three windows, and then there's that triangular space. And it's
Right.
just what's in there doesn't, to me, it doesn't fit. It's like a little too big, and it's the wrong shape or something. But whereas in the original one, it was a round in the middle of a triangle. But yeah, if you could, it sounds like you're getting what I'm saying there. So
Hey, I want to clarify so I'm following you. You're talking both about the shape of the window as well as the gable and how much of that space it occupies?
yes, so I'm on the East Street elevation on the directly below the steeple in that triangular.
But are you talking about the gable off to the left-hand side that faces Washington Street?
That shed dormer.
The shed dormer, no, I'm not. I mean, it's hard on the elevation to tell how far it is. I mean, that hurts a little bit too, but from the elevation, I don't know that it's how far back it is. But
Mike,
what jumps out at me is the window design inside that, whatever you call that. Is it a,
Mike,
It's
what
just
is
a gable
planned
end.
to be in there? Is that a unit?
There is
Yes.
living space in there.
Because if you go to the Washington Street side, it looks like it sticks out proud of the rest of the building in
It
front of
is.
that gable. Is the rest
It
of the
is.
building in line with the steeple?
There is living space in that attic. That shed dormer that you were questioning how far back, it's about 40 feet from the edge, the rake end of the gable to the shed dormer. So again, the elevations don't tell the story. It's so far back that it's not even relevant. The gable is still the prominent look, but again, looking at this, I think we could do something instead of the flanking double hungs with the Palladian window in the middle. We do something a little bit differently. It may just be two windows and maybe a narrower gable.
Mike, not to cut you off, Mike, just keep in mind, that's probably one of the only windows in that unit, because if you flip to the Washington Street side,
That's what I was going to say. It looks
there's
like
no,
it's the
there's
only
no
option.
windows, right? There's no windows at all until you get to the right side where that's the other
Oh.
bedroom. So
Is that the
there's
same
no
unit?
other windows. Yes.
It is the same.
But
Yes.
So there's no other windows in that entire unit besides those three, with that in the prominent section of the steeple.
right, so that unit is three sides. There's no windows, probably, yeah, because you look at this, it's on the same.
Correct.
If you're looking at the from Washington Street, it's all flat there still. So then on the other side, if you were looking at it from, like the other, yeah, you get, so whoever's in that space, they have one wall that has that's all they've got. So yeah, I think it has to be, the size is not so much, I think it's just the style, the Palladian, and the, like maybe there's a way to make that look more classic. I don't know.
Yeah, I I think that's, Giorgio, that's what I think the point I was making is maybe it's more vertical, that's all. I'm not so spread out. We could still get as much glass in another way.
You mentioned that on the Washington Street side, they would be used as egress windows. If you made it smaller, would they still suffice for that purpose?
They're being used as egress. I think we would still need big windows. I don't think it's just, a window has to allow a body to get out. It's
Right.
crazy.
No, I know there's a certain size dimension that
And
needs to.
and this is a commercial building, so it really allows a fireman to get in is the other, so it's a bigger window than it would be in a single family house. So they need to be approximately 3 by 5. I'm just ballparking a window. So half of it would be a 3 by 3. It's 53 square feet or something. I don't know. It's no, 5.3 square feet is what the open area has to be. So they still need to be large windows, but maybe they're not in that. I'm just saying it may be double hung, Palladian double hung. It may just be a more vertical window. Maybe it's a double arched, for instance, might work well.
And would you consider keeping that theme all the way around onto Washington Street to those two gable windows? Or
So that's
keep
where I
those
think
as depicted?
I thought the front looked appropriate when the chairman said on the gable end, the church gable, it does get a little more spread out than you'd want to see it as soon as he mentioned it. But I think the other gables, they're not part of the church. It's not part of the, first thing I said, and we never represented, we were copying the church. We were using it as an inspiration. And I think we could certainly take liberties within that, but the front, I would keep them the way they are. Personally, I think they're right, but that's what we're here for. If we get feedback, we could look at another option, but.
Well, keeping Giorgio's comment in mind, it was a thought that I had before he made the statement. We do have to be mindful that this is the only place for natural light to come in, and it being an egress. I guess in this situation a little bit more of a fan of function over form, or function dictating form. So it's not offensive to me, but I would not. I understand other people might have some better ideas of how to approach that gable end under the steeple, but it doesn't. I'm not offended by it, but I know there's always room to tweak.
Right. Are there any other questions or comments?
I have a couple more questions. Going back to that unit that has that one window, is that going to be a very dark unit then, or?
It has windows again from East Street. It has windows in that shed in the further back. There's some of those are bedroom windows. Some of those are there's an additional living room window there too. But yeah, it is why we propose more glass. It's why we did it at the very beginning, and I just think there may be a different solution. I still think we need quite a bit of glass there, but just a different option. That's all. I'm taking the suggestion that there may be something more vertical, but we don't want a dark unit, and that's why we added it. That's why we're here, I guess.
Okay. Just an informational question. Are there going to be any common areas in these condos or outdoor patios or anything, or no?
No, it's not. We never proposed that. Other projects we're working on today, we have actually changed, and we've been adding outdoor spaces, but no. And there's really no way to make it happen. It would become, it'd be challenging, certainly on Washington Street. So we're not proposing any, just the spaces that are the outdoor areas that are on either side of the building, the patios that are available. If they're a restaurant, then they would be closed off, but no, there are no amenity spaces.
All right, my final question is an accessibility one. When you look at the back parking lot on the East Street side, how does someone get from the parking lot to the front of the building? Because it's at a slope there. To walk up there, is there an elevator for them or?
There is an elevator in the CVS building that is public access that would get you from one. We have this sort of a split entry that does take you up to the upper level for handicap access. Also, if you go along East Street, that is ADA compliant. The sidewalk is ADA compliant. So there are two options. One is to go around. Potentially, one could go through the CVS.
The old CVS?
Old CVS.
Yeah, okay.
All right, well, thank you. So procedurally here, I believe this is, we would need to determine if this is a minor modification. If it's considered, if it's not a minor modification, that would need a public hearing and a further, more formal discussion of things. So I think that's kind of the threshold is this a minor modification that's still consistent with the design? And then if that's the case, we could then vote on that. I mean, Abby, do you have or Nora, do you have any other context on this or?
No, I have nothing further.
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Let's see. So I believe that's the process here. If someone wants to make a motion to find that it's a minor modification, and then
I'll make a motion that we find all submitted changes tonight to be considered minor modification to the approved plan for this particular location on Washington Street, East Street corner.
All right, that's a motion by Mr. Paff. Is there a second?
I'll second that, but I have a question, Dave, and I don't know procedurally where that I should insert that.
So yeah, we can, so it's a motion and a second, so we can continue discussion.
Mike has thrown out there that there may be another solution. So, I mean, I think that the totality of the changes, including a proposed solution, is still falling under a minor modification. But I just don't know what the process is for, is there going to be something else brought back before us?
If I may, one of the things that we are trying to do is we are trying to get a building permit, and we need planning board to sign off on the concept. So if I could suggest that we could submit alternatives to Abby that could be reviewed, or if we had to come back at the next one, but if we could get if you think that it's not a major modification, that just this window is something that we could move forward with that permit and then look at options for this, that would be very helpful to the timing of the project.
It seems reasonable to me that we can make a determination on this tonight. They can move forward. We can still decide what style of window will go on the third floor, which we know is a ways out from being even installed. So I think we can act on this tonight. I don't think we have to delay this determination.
So I'll just add, if you want to look at another alternative for that window facing East Street, then that should be submitted back to the planning board. The next planning board meeting is January 12th. If that's, I don't know, is that a realistic time frame, Mike McKay, or to get something back to the planning board?
That's fine. I'm just hoping that we may be able to, we could certainly do that. We could come back with the alternatives, but we're hoping that it would not hold up the permit. I'm not sure if that's something that's possible. I guess.
I think in order for me to review something, I would need clear direction from the planning board. So if the planning board were to approve it, it needs to be really specific on exactly what you're looking for so that it could be submitted and then I could, approve it without going to the planning board. So it sounds a little open-ended right now.
I'm not suggesting we wouldn't come back, Abby. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm saying we could come back, but could we, you know, get approval with the understanding that we'll come back and solve this window problem. That's what I'm asking for.
Yeah, that seems consistent with, I think, number one, we can find we have a motion to find that it's a minor modification, and we can go ahead and vote on that. And then we can also vote on that we're approving this, and we know that there's going to be some slight changes to the window design. So I think the goal, I believe, would be to allow the permitting to move forward, and then just knowing that we're going to get a look at that window in January, and
That's
that
fine.
could be okay, that looks, thank you for, adjusting.
But Dave, what happens if we still have questions about the window? I mean, where does it go from there?
I'll keep coming back. We'll solve the window problem. We'll make it right. I mean, I think that's, that we can even submit multiple options that we can discuss. It's just one gable window. We can look at many options.
So I'm still comfortable with the second on the minor modification motion, Dave.
Okay. All right, so is there any further discussion on the finding of whether this is a minor modification? Seeing no further discussion, we'll have a roll call vote on, is this a minor modification? Mr. Paff?
Yes.
Ms. Conant?
Yes.
Mr. Gotti?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So it is a minor modification. And then we would need a motion to approve this, unless someone wants to word this.
I'll make a motion to approve the changes submitted, with the exception of the gable window facing East Street, to be determined at our next planning board meeting, or discussed, I should say, at our next planning board meeting.
I'll second that.
Sufficient enough?
Okay, so there's a motion from Mr. Paff and a second from Mr. Gotti. I would just ask Abby and Nora if this is sufficient. The intention here is that the permitting process be able to move forward, and that we will review designs. I mean, if it changes the shape of the window, it should still be possible to put that in, but the window's not going to go away. Like, it's not going to be like we just say no window. It's right. Are we?
Okay. Yeah.
Clear enough to.
Yep. And so I'll work with Mike to try to get that for your January 12th meeting.
For sure.
So the only question I would have is for the building permit set. Right now, the building permit set shows the substitute window that Mike has proposed. Should the building permit set show the approved window at that location with a note that it can be changed, or should it show that window and then have some type of notation on it saying that specific window is not approved and further approval is required? We're going to need something on the set that the building permit is issued on that makes that more clear. So if the board would prefer to see it go back to the original window that was approved, or shown with the window that's proposed with a note that this requires further review, it could be either or.
Does that have to be part of the motion?
I think we need direction from the board so that we know, so Mr. McKay knows how to submit the plan to the building commissioner for approval.
Well, the first window doesn't allow
Egress.
access
No.
if there was an issue where they had to get out. So it would have to be the latter there and say that it's, what was it you said, Nora, that it hasn't been approved yet, or hasn't?
Right. We'd have to have a note on it that this specific window is not approved, that the planning board will consider other alternative windows that are building code compliant.
I think that's what my motion said, to approve the plans as submitted with the exception of the window facing East Street.
Right.
I believe it is. I just want to make it clear that the question was, do we have what we need to get the building permit? And I want to make it clear that we don't, the building permit set that's been submitted is not sufficient unless there's a note on it saying that that window's not approved.
I can add, I'll bubble the drawing and just put a note that said, this window is not approved, the way I could handle it, this window is not approved for final design, but will meet all egress requirements. So it will take, Mr. Doyle's, any question that he might have on egress, that we'll just note that we're coming back to the planning board for final design. So I think that's an easy bubble that we can do on the drawing.
I think that works.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I think that is in keeping with the spirit of the motion.
All right, any further discussion? There's a motion by Mr. Paff, seconded by Mr. Gotti. Mr. Paff,
Yes.
Ms. Conant,
Yes.
Mr. Gotti,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So that motion passes. And things can move forward. I think while we have, is there anything else related to this item that we wanted? Because I was also, while we have Mr. Petruzziello here, I thought it would be good to hear an update on the overall project and just the progress of how things are going and tenants and just whatever you can share. Just always good to hear what's the status of things, because I just had noticed that things are progressing in the parking lot there for the other building, and just whatever you can share with us would be great.
So as you see 278, the old CVS, I'll speak to my projects. I think Nora's on, she could speak to the library and that aspect of it. But 278, really, we haven't done much. We brought it to a point now in searching for tenants. And it's at a point where, which is the old CVS, we're at a point where we're advertising for rent. We don't have any tenants yet. We do have Orange Theory, but we don't know. We're waiting to hear from corporate if how that is going, if they even will come back. Obviously, with COVID and everything else, it's been a difficult time to rent anything. So 278 really is kind of at the mercy of COVID right now. But the project next door, obviously the one that we're phase 3, we're hoping to get a permit for in the next few days, is going to start immediately after closing. We have everything lined up for right after Christmas, start doing the construction fence, start doing disconnects, and hopefully start demoing the second week of January and starting construction immediately. So, and as you see across the street, CVS is pretty much done. And that's it on my end.
Then I can add that we're working on the new Wentworth Hall. So that's in construction now. Tower Construction is our contractor, and they're working away. They expect to be complete by the end of June 2021. So assuming that there are no further COVID delays, we should be on target to move the library, the youth and family services, and then all of the community programs in the lower level community space by July of 2021. The phase 3 closing, where we turn over the ICC to Petruzziello and receive our final payment, is set for December 22nd. So just around the corner.
All right, thank you, Nora, and thank you, Mr. Petruzziello. So I think that concludes this agenda item, unless there's any other questions or.
No, we don't have to close or continue.
Right, it's not a hearing,
It's
so.
not a hearing.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank
Happy
you.
holidays, everyone.
Have a good holiday. Bye.
Likewise.
All right, the the next item on the agenda is a public hearing. This is for an EIDR, Environmental Impact Design Review, for related to a cell phone tower in a wireless overlay district. So this is at 808 High Street. This is behind the Baptist Church. And I believe this is an application to temporarily house some AT&T, and I'll let the applicant describe it. I'll get into it, but is the applicant here ready to present?
Yes. Hi, how are you all? Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Great. Thank you very much. My name is Michael Dolan. I am a lawyer from the law firm of Brown Rudnick in Boston. My client, New Singular Wireless PCS LLC, as you well know, holds licenses to operate a wireless telecommunications network throughout the country, including here in Westwood. Part of AT&T's wireless network and infrastructure in Westwood includes an antenna facility at the Thurston Middle School in that building. Unfortunately for us, the lease at that site is expiring imminently, and AT&T needs to find a replacement location for its antenna facility. We're very pleased to have been able to work with Crown Castle and identify space on their existing flagpole tower, style tower, which is located at the back of the parking lot of the Pilgrim Church property. This is great because we don't have to propose a new tower, so it's nice to find an existing structure. As well, this property is located in the Wireless Communications Overlay District. The antennas and the related equipment at the middle school that we're proposing to relocate to the 808 High Street property are a key part of AT&T's wireless network in Westwood, and also a critical part of AT&T's FirstNet emergency communication system, which is relied upon by the Westwood Fire and Police. AT&T needs to relocate its antennas as soon as possible so as to avoid any interruption in service, which could result in a potential public safety issue. The facility we're proposing involves the attachment of 3 panel antennas at the 65-foot above ground level antenna centerline height on the existing 92-foot 1-inch flagpole style monopole. Right now, there are already T-Mobile antennas on that pole. So we would be the second carrier attaching to that structure. We're also proposing related ground equipment, which is standard, and all of that will be inside the fenced compound area. Our antennas will be camouflaged with a concealment stealth wrap, which will match the color of the monopole. We will not be increasing the height of the tower structure. And Crown Castle, who owns this facility, is planning to, in the next 2 months or so, apply for permits before the planning board for an approval to replace that existing flagpole structure with a new one that is going to look more stealth and be of a more efficient design, so that T-Mobile and AT&T antennas can get inside that in a much more sleek way and in a much more efficient way. What we're proposing then is a temporary fix for AT&T until such time as we can get in, hopefully, that more permanent solution. I think you can see in the photo simulations that we submitted with our application that the visual impact of this facility is minimal. At 65 feet, I would dare to say that probably most of our facility is almost below the tree line and out of sight. There's significant tree cover in the area, and if you're familiar with the property, this pole is set back a good 700 feet from High Street. So you can see in the photo simulations, there's not really anywhere where you can even see the pole. So in that regard, there's no aesthetic impact to the surrounding area. What we're seeking here tonight then is EIDR approval, as well as certain waivers, one of which relates to the diameter of our facility. There's a limitation of it being 3 feet. We're slightly above that. But where Abby is highlighting, that would be our facility there. And as I say, that's pretty much below the tree line. And that's our temporary fix, which we would love to install as soon as possible because of the issues we're going to face with having to evacuate the Thurston Middle School facility. So we really appreciate your consideration, and I'm here tonight to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Let's see. Why don't we go to any board members have questions? We could start with Mr. Gotti this time, if you have any questions.
No, I really didn't. This is a temporary solution on an existing pole. You know, from a visual standpoint, it's below the tree line. It's really not that far from where the existing antenna is, so I don't imagine there's any radio frequency change. So I didn't really have any questions. And I read through the staff comments and I didn't see anything that was cause for concern from my point of view.
Thanks. Ms. Conant, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Mr. Paff?
Just wanted to know if the applicant could reiterate the nature of the temporary. How long are we talking as temporary? Are you seeking, basically?
Well, our hope is that the Crown Castle can secure the appropriate approvals to install that replacement pole at the same location in the months to come, such that as soon as they're done with that, we will move over. So, you know, we're seeking a 1-year permit. And then I would propose we come back if we have to, but the goal is that that would never be the case, and that we would long be up on the new pole. And this is not ideal for AT&T, by the way. It's not a great height. There's some issues regarding the efficiency of the site, and that new site is our goal, and the tower developers' goal as well. So we'll be pushing hard to see if we can't get that done as soon as possible.
So you're looking for a year starting January 1? Or starting tomorrow, today?
Tomorrow.
Okay. I just want to make sure that this doesn't continue as a constant temporary situation. So I guess I would say, in the event, maybe you can get another 1-year extension, but after that we submit to a full hearing, because I think at that point we're entering our 3rd year, and then it would be not a temporary situation.
Fair enough. And as I say, our goal is to not have to avail ourselves of those options.
Right. I just want to make sure the town is protected here, and that we don't just keep kicking the can down the road.
Sure.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Paff. So this is a public hearing, and if we will take public comment, the way that we can do that, if you're on the phone, if you press *9, that'll be requesting to be unmuted. And if you are in the Zoom here, you can raise your hand, or you can type a question in the Q&A. So I see we have a number of people here. I think many of them are here for the comprehensive plan, but I'll just give it a second here to see if there's anyone who would like to speak on this. So I'm not seeing anything. Let me just check, because sometimes I miss the, no one has their hand raised. There's no questions in the Q&A. So procedurally, our step here would be to vote on the waivers first. They've requested 2 waivers, and those are for the diameter. As you saw in the side-by-side pictures, we're going to increase the diameter to 3.9 feet. And let's see, the standard waivers from the standard application requirements for EIDR is a new wireless facility. That's a map with the 500-foot full property site plan details, presentation model, traffic study, exterior lighting plan, drainage report. So,
Dave, I had a question. If I'm sorry, you mentioned the diameter of this. I'm wondering if the applicant can speak to why is this beyond our 3 feet ordinary dimension. I'm curious if technology is changing and we're not changing our procedures, should we be looking at that? Are things, technologically speaking, needing more space?
Yeah, I mean, if you ask the carriers, they'd always love more space. But your question's a good one. In this case, so that we can try to mimic the coverage we're getting from a more fulsome site at Thurston Middle School. We do have these antennas situated in a certain way that does get out beyond the 3 feet. Similarly, we're affixing to more of the outside of the pole as opposed to getting inside it and flush mounted to the pole. So that's what's causing the bump out here. I suspect that our permanent solution will in fact be a smaller diameter than what we're proposing here ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion on the waivers? So
I'll make a motion that we accept the request of waivers by the applicant for the wireless tower, temporary wireless tower at, I'm sorry, I'm missing the address, 808 High Street.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Paff. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Paff, seconded by Mr. Gotti. Is there any further discussion? This is this motion to grant the waivers only, and then we'll move on to another vote for the actual granting of the permit with the conditions and all. So for the waivers, how do you vote, Mr. Paff?
Yes.
And Ms. Conant?
Yes.
Mr. Gotti?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So there are 4 votes in favor, and the waivers are granted. So then we would consider the application. I think there are conditions, Abby, which include like the temporariness. Do you want to summarize those conditions?
Sure. So you had in your packet, and I sent a copy to the applicant as well, a list of 5 recommended conditions of approval. The first one is that the facility comply with the FCC guidelines, that the visual impact be mitigated by having it, painted to match as it is shown on the plans, that white color. And number 3 is that the old site be removed once that the facility at Thurston be abandoned. Once the new one is up, within 6 months, all that equipment and associated material there needs to be removed. And if written confirmation can be provided when that's completed. And condition number 4 is that this is a temporary approval, good for 1 year until December 15th, 2021, unless the applicant returns to the planning board prior to that expiration to ask for an extension or grant of a new wireless, the new permanent location. The new permanent location would require a new special permit submission to the planning board with a new public hearing. And then 5 is that a copy of the plans and decisions be kept on site.
All right, thank you, Abby. So do we have a motion to approve the EIDR with these conditions?
I'll make a motion to approve the EIDR as submitted with the conditions that Abby has just enumerated.
And is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
And is there any further discussion? And is there there's no public discussion. Nobody has raised their hand or anything. So let's proceed to a vote. Mr. Paff?
Yes.
Ms. Conant?
Yes.
Mr. Gotti?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So the EIDR is approved. And thank you very much. And
Thank you very much. Happy holidays, and thank you, Abby. I appreciate
you.
your help.
If
Okay,
the
bye.
board could just close the public hearing too.
Okay, thanks.
Make a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved.
motion by Mr. Paff, seconded by Mr. Gotti to close the public hearing. And we'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Paff,
Yes.
Ms. Conant,
Yes.
Mr. Gotti,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So the public hearing is closed. All right, thanks everybody. And I guess we'll see you again in a few months with a new antenna.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the continued public hearing for the draft comprehensive plan. And believe that Mr. Wigan, Mr. Olenoff, and a number of people from the committee are here to talk about that. So I will, with that, I guess, turn it over to who wants to go first.
I'm just letting in some of the committee members.
We good, Abby?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board, my name is Jack Wigan. I'm the chair of the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. And tonight we also have Steve Olenoff, the vice chair, and I can see now several number of people from the steering committee are in attendance as well. As you know, this is the third session of the public hearing on the proposed comprehensive plan for the community. Just for anybody who might be listening that hadn't been to the earlier parts of the hearing, the Board of Selectmen a couple years ago appointed a steering committee to work alongside the Planning Board to develop a updated comprehensive plan for the community. We brought that draft to the Planning Board, which opened a hearing on November 17th, received some comments from the board and the public on that evening. The hearing was continued to December 2nd, December 1st. Again, received additional comments from the board and I think from the public as well. And now we're back for the third session. In the Planning Board's materials for this meeting, Town Planner Abby McCade included two versions of the comprehensive plan revised to incorporate the comments offered by the Planning Board members at your last meeting on December 1. The version dated December 2nd contains all of the edits requested by the Planning Board at that December 1 meeting. These appear in red line. This is the version reviewed by the Select Board at its meeting on December 7th, after which they issued a letter of support, which was also included in your package. The other version dated December 10th is the same, except for subsequent copy editing for clarity, mostly done by Vice Chairman Steve Olenoff. These are also redlined in that version. None of the edits, none of these copy edits changes anything of substance in the plan that's dated December 2nd, the one that was reviewed by the Board of Selectmen. So as we move forward, we would suggest that this version is the most appropriate to be considered for adoption by the Planning Board for your review this evening and for ultimately for adoption. And that's all I have, isn't it, by way of introduction?
All right, thank you, Mr. Wigan. And again, I want to just thank you and all the members of this committee who worked on this for the last couple of years to engage with the community and come up with this document. It's a huge accomplishment. And again, I keep hearing about other towns that have spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on consultants who deliver a document and then everybody accepts it or whatever. And here we have a situation where dozens of people in town worked on this and rewrote things, and it's ours. So I think that's a great accomplishment. Are there any board members who would like? I'll just go through and see if I'll start with Mr. Paff. If you have any comments further.
No comments on the document. I think it reads incredibly well. And just to echo your sentiment, I think the completeness of this plan and the fact that we did it in-house really speaks to two glaring things to me: the talents within our town and the dedication of our citizens to take part in something like this. I'm really impressed with how this came together. And I believe this truly is a shared vision of our town for our future. And so I think it's a great working model for us to operate by moving forward for things like possible zoning considerations and housing, land use, all those things that are identified. I think it's a huge testament to our town. So congrats to everyone who worked on this.
All right, Ms. Conant, do you have any?
I think the plan is written very well. I'm glad that they inputted quite a bit about COVID, because as we've seen, especially with the MBTA changes going on, we don't know what the future is going to hold. So I think it's crucial that we continue to review it on a yearly basis to make sure that we're all aligned with what the plan, with what we've put into the plan. But otherwise, it's a very nice job.
Thank you. And Mr. Gotti?
I would echo what both Chris and Deb said in terms of the effort that this group put into drafting this and the way you thoughtfully considered all of the feedback from not just the planning board, from the select board and the public through our hearing process. So I have no additional comments on the 1210 draft that's before us.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gotti. And then Abby, so as I was actually reading through the meeting minutes before this meeting, I saw at the very end my comment at the last meeting that sort of inspired me to look back at the implementation section and just the paragraph there. I reworded that a little bit to assuming that we adopt this. It's basically saying that, because it was sort of saying it is suggested that the planning board review this, and so I just reworded that to say that the planning board decided that it would conduct an annual, if you want to.
I'm just pulling it up right now. Okay. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Dave, this is what you wanted to show?
We just see we don't see the text.
We haven't opened anything up yet.
Oh, okay. Is it taking a minute? All right. Hold on.
I think it's just sharing the folder, like it's not showing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you might have to stop
Sorry.
and share the PDF.
Okay, let me figure out how to do that. All right. How about now?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm calling this out because I know it was a last minute thing that I don't want to change anything that, but I thought, if we're going to, like Ms. Kona was saying, like, and what actually made me happy about the last meeting in particular was that we are interested in actually following up on this, and that we make an annual process of checking to see where we are on these things, so it doesn't get forgotten or well.
Like your edit, Dave, I think it's concise and captures the spirit of what was discussed.
All right, any other thoughts? Then we have this is a public hearing, so we will open this up to public comment. If you're on the phone, it's *9 is to request to be unmuted. You can raise your hand in Zoom, or you can type something in the Q&A and I will read that. I'll either read that, or if you want to be recognized, you could also put that in the Q&A. So I'll just read, anonymous attendee says that the draft of the master plan continues to omit any language respecting bringing back a long-term financial planning committee. Why is this? It's a long-term financial planning committee. Anybody? I think we
I
talked
think
a little bit about that before.
I think we have in our community facilities section. Hold on, it's community facilities. We do, we call it, we have CF 32, it's number 32. It's on page 9 of 11 of the community facilities section. And we had consider the establishment of a municipal facilities staff committee to assist the town administrator and the regular reviewing of capital building and long-range projects. That was, I mean, we had heard that before. We thought that was in response, including that in.
Okay. Is there any further, anyone else wanting to be recognized, or? I don't see any other, anyone raising their hand. I don't see any other questions in the comment area. Paula, were you raising your hand or no? Okay. All right, so what's our next step here then? Are we ready to vote to adopt this plan?
It seems like they're done writing it and we're done reading it. So it seems like that's the next logical step.
Would someone like to make a motion? Well, yeah, actually, we would vote on things first, and we always close the hearing after in case something comes up.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the submitted comprehensive plan for the town of Westwood as a document from the planning board.
I will second that.
I have a motion from Mr. Paff, seconded by Mr. Gotti, to adopt the comprehensive plan. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Paff,
Yes.
Ms. Conant,
Yes.
Mr. Gotti,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on the comprehensive plan.
I'll second it.
There's a motion from Mr. Gotti and a second from Mr. Paff to close the public hearing. Roll call vote for that. Mr. Paff,
Yes.
Ms. Conant,
Yes.
Mr. Gotti,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So the public hearing on the comprehensive plan is closed and the comprehensive plan is adopted. Thank you.
Somebody's right.
Thank you, Abby, for your tireless effort over the last 2 years, and then some probably. Yes, Abby is
Did I just hear
dancing.
champagne opening?
And thank you again, all the members of this committee who worked so hard on this and throughout the COVID, through the last few months, especially continuing remote meetings and everything. All right, thanks. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Jack,
Thank you.
Steve, and everybody.
Yeah.
Congratulations to
Oh,
all.
great.
The steering committee really was a fantastic group of people that brought a lot of talent to this effort. And we should say too that working with the planning board over the past couple of months on this has been really a pleasure. So we appreciate your comments. It's a better document for having gone through this, and we appreciate that. And of course, Abby, what can we say? Everybody knows how much effort she put into this, and it shows. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
We're done.
So now,
Thank you.
thanks everybody. So now let's talk zoning.
Oh, yeah.
So the next item on the agenda is, let's see, so we closed all the public hearings. Now we're going into public meeting items. Zoning amendments for submission to the annual town meeting warrant. So as always, we have a accelerated cycle here of the warrant was opened. Abby, you can give the update, but it's always interesting to me how we have it's always an accelerated cycle, and the warrant's going to be closed before our next planning board meeting, and so things are already in gear. But Abby, why don't you give an update on what you have in the pipeline here?
Sure, yes. The select board opened the annual town meeting last week, and then it closes January 11th. Your next meeting is January 12th. So I recommend tonight, this is the meeting where you give your list of warrant articles to the select board. So usually it's a kind of a placeholder list. We kind of submit and, you know, a quick outline of the number of articles and a couple sentences for each article. So that's what you should do tonight. And then for your next meeting on January 12th, that's where we should come together and review draft language for the articles. And that's where the board should really, as a group, review all the articles in the full scope. Because that meeting in January, your January 12th meeting, soon after that is when you have to submit the legal advertisement, the public hearing notice to the newspaper. So your public hearing isn't until usually your second meeting in February. So that's February 23rd. And then the FinCom's public hearings are two sets, one in early March and one in late March. But you submit the legal notice after your January meeting and before your next meeting. So on January 12th, you should be prepared to, you know, review the full scope of the articles. The articles may be amended throughout the public hearing process, but the end result always has to be within the original scope of the original notice that was advertised in the newspaper. So that way, by January 12th, you should be prepared to review the articles kind of as a group and be ready to make sure your legal notice captures, fully captures everything that you're proposing. So right now, my recommendation is I had a brief list of articles based off of what you had talked about in the fall. So the first one would be to resubmit the firearms sales article. You spent time on this last year and you all supported it, and it received support from the FinCom last year. This was to remove the firearms from the two local business districts, to not allow that there anymore. But because of COVID, that was bumped off of the warrant. So I recommend resubmitting that one. Also, temporary uses and structures. Right now in our zoning bylaw, temporary uses and structures are only allowed by special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. That is at least a 3-month process from the time an application is submitted until the end of any appeals period. And so sometimes the building commissioner gets requests for things that are temporary and shorter than that time period. So it's not really worth an applicant's time to go through that full process. So he brought it to my attention about allowing a shorter, you know, in certain instances and for shorter time frames, to consider making amendments to allow administrative approval from the building commissioner. So that's one I recommend submitting. I think that could also help, you know, with COVID and these kinds of situations that come up. We've been able to so far work with, you know, restaurants during the pandemic, but this could be helpful going forward. So I still need to work on drafting that exact language. I think I could have that by your next meeting in January, but that's one I suggest. And then also, we've talked a few times about the medical uses. You know, this has come to the board before in a couple of different forms, but over the last couple months or a month and a half or so, I've been working with a couple, you know, some residents and Rob and Chris, working on proposing a new option to bring to you. We've met 3 times and we've made some progress, and we think we'll be ready to bring something to you for the January 12th meeting. So we still have some work to do, but we are working on pulling together a full article, and we talked about doing some outreach and some education, you know, over the next few weeks. So that's what we'd like to work on in the next couple of weeks. So I think we can have that one ready by our next meeting as well. And then my last one that I suggest is like general housekeeping. We keep on there, and that's for if you discover any typos or just errors while you're reviewing. It's not for substantive changes. It's just if we notice any renumbering that needs to be done, we will bring that forward in the housekeeping article. So that's my proposal, is those 4 articles for annual town meeting.
Great, thanks, Abby. And then you had the additional, the additional articles item on there. That was, I had a resident ask me how they could get a zoning change to make it easier to do solar panels, basically. Like that's, and my response to them was that we would, this process is kicking off now, but probably WEAC, the best thing would be to work with WEAC and after the comprehensive plan and all, and kind of come together with something more specific. So I don't know if I wanted to have it open though at this meeting, though, if we think there's anything we should add, we have to do it tonight if we want to get a placeholder in there for that. So that's why that item is listed there, as it's sort of any additional things. But I don't know if anyone has any appetite for adding something for this spring town meeting or not. So
when you say make it easier to get solar panels, what are they referring to?
So we have right now there's 2 types of uses. There's rooftop solar and ground-based solar. Rooftop solar is by right, so you can put as many panels as you can fit on your roof, basically. Ground-based solar requires a special permit by the ZBA. So if you want to put solar panels in your backyard, then you need to go to the ZBA for that process. And that has happened once where it was denied, because abutters didn't want a solar array in the backyard. This is not even like talking about like the Shuttleworth project. This was more of a homeowner wanted to put a ground-based array. And so there was the idea of, well, shouldn't you be able to do what, shouldn't you be able to put a structure in your backyard if it meets the requirements otherwise? Like why should it require a special permit? So they were just asking, is there a way to make the zoning more friendly towards solar panel installation?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So it's pretty friendly for roof-based units. I don't think you want to deal with that, but so you probably want to try and figure out a way to make it easier for ground-based units. So you could limit the warrant to that situation.
Right, and we talked about this a little bit when we were reviewing the comprehensive plan, and also with WEAC, the Environmental Action Council, because we did include a recommendation in there to update the review the special permit requirements. Because so one thought, kind of when we were writing that section that you just approved, it said review the special permit requirements for the ground-mounted solar. So I think we might want to add language on the design standards and findings, specific findings that the planning zoning board has to make. It's currently with the zoning board. So in some cases, for special permits, most cases, special permits just have general findings of fact that special permits have to make. In other cases, we have very specific findings depending on exactly what's proposed. So I think the approach and the idea would be to look at those and making it more specific to solar. So I think that's something we can do. I didn't propose that right now because I think it's getting a little tight on figuring out exactly what to propose, because I know we've had about 3 revisions to the solar section of the zoning bylaw in the 5.5 years I've been here. So, I'd want to look at it and make sure we get it right. rather than trying to pull something together. I think it's something we should look at. I wasn't ready to propose specific language at this time, but I think it is something that the planning board should look at.
When you talk about the solar having changed in the bylaws several times over the last 5 years, is proposing language that is specific sort of chasing something that is ever evolving as technology continues to change? I wonder if we're trying to define something that, based on the rate of change and innovation, we're not going to be able to define.
So the
I'm in favor of the idea of making it easier for the ground-based arrays. I want to make sure that we're not trying to define something that we're going to be constantly chasing from an innovation standpoint.
the zoning changed about 4 years ago, I think, because it previously had been defined as a large and small scale solar. And that was actually, Peter Kane came and spoke to the planning board about that. And yeah, the issue is that the technology is changing. And so that kind of locking you into a specific number of kilowatts was bad because of technology changing. And so the outcome of that was to say, rooftop solar is by right. We just got rid of the distinction, so there's no more. So that was making it easier for rooftop solar, because we had a person who had a bunch of roofs, and they wanted to put in like a 30 kilowatt array on their property about 4 years ago, and they would it was considered like a commercial large scale thing because they have a large, they have lots of roof on their large house. So anyway, that was not, it wasn't like to address that person specifically, of course, but it was the idea that we can, let's change the zoning so that on your roof, it's not some arbitrary limit on the kilowatts. But then this was more of a, what about something in your backyard? And we're probably getting the question, I would say, and I'm not, would we want to put a placeholder on there for this? Is there appetite for that? Or the alternative would simply be to take it up in the next cycle, to have WEAC come to us with a proposal for something specific, and then see what else is in the comprehensive plan related to sustainability and all that, maybe come with a package of zoning changes. So I just wanted to expose it as an idea and see if anyone thought it would be good to put a placeholder on there or not. So,
Mr. Chairman, might I suggest something? Might you have a conversation with the members of WEAC to see if they want to work with you? They're kind of the resident experts on this, and they might be a very valuable resource for you. And in terms of telling you whether they think they can do it now or they want to wait a year, I would suggest great idea to have a placeholder, but also to initiate a significant conversation with the members of WEAC to see where they are in this process.
My thoughts are, it seems a little hurried to do it in this cycle, but I understand you need to start the conversation right now so that it doesn't feel hurried for the next cycle. And I suppose there's no harm in creating a placeholder. If it doesn't work out, we can always remove it.
Yes, you can.
So we just can't add anymore after the 11th. So I don't know. To me, it seems like maybe it's something we come to the select board with something that we've worked on as opposed to just a placeholder. My gut tells me there's a good chance that, if we're past the real bad COVID part, there's a good chance we'll have a fall town meeting, especially if the school, department moves along in that direction. So it seems like that might be something we can do over the summer and the fall, and do it right, to reiterate what Abby said. There's just a lot. It's not just building a structure. I mean, it's not just putting a shed up in your backyard. This is more nuanced than that. And I'd hate to see us scrambling to reconsider things that we forgot about at the 11th hour and things like that. I agree with everything that's been said. I just don't know if this spring town meeting is the right time for this one. This is the first we're talking about it on December 15th. Just seems a little hurried.
I agree with Chris. I think that especially with the ground mounted solar, there can be there's a lot of oversight needed in terms of, privacy and shading it from neighbors and things like that, or front yard, backyard. So there's a lot to consider, and I just don't think we have enough time.
I agree with you, Deb and Chris. I think it's worthy of conversation, Dave, and I think it's the type of thing that, we take Mr. Ahern's suggestion and talk to WEAC and try to get it right.
All right. Are there anything else from Abby's list? Any questions about that? So shall we go ahead and just submit those as the
I'm fine with that. I think that represents all of our interests right now and what we're ready to go with.
all right. Do we need a motion to go ahead and direct and have Abby submit those to the select board to request those articles be included in the warrant?
I believe you need a motion and a vote, yes.
Dave, I think someone just raised their hand. I just saw it pop up.
Let's see. I'm just looking to, okay, yeah, let's, so we're not actually in a public hearing, but I will, I'll take some input here. So it's Nada, do you want to be unmuted to ask a question?
So I just gave her permission to unmute herself, so that way she can speak.
Yes. Good evening. Can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
It's regarding the articles, so the proposed zoning articles. I think that we have not received or not heard a logical explanation on why the medical uses article keeps coming up year after year after year. I need to reiterate what I said to FinCom, and I don't have the exact date. I think it was before, it was 2019. With respect to medical centers and clinics, that language, when someone refers to a medical center or clinic, it's imperative that people understand and that this board understand that those terms, medical center and clinic, were crafted in the language that was specific to and exclusively for the Master Development Agreement for the University Ave Mixed Use District, the UAMUD. And I don't understand how there can be a misinterpretation. Someone comes to our land use committee or whoever it is that they apply to for medical center or clinic, they can have one specifically at University Station. So I don't understand, and I think a lot of residents are still wanting to hear a logical explanation why it seems like this medical use article is trying to be pushed and shoved through. When the planning
I'll interrupt you and just say that I think stay tuned for the next.
Take it up. And the select board should stay out of zoning business.
So I think stay tuned for the next meeting. Basically, the explanation is that the select board wanted us to take this up. We're trying a different approach now to get some input from other members of the community and to bring this up for discussion at the next meeting and through the whole public hearing process again. So we're
excuse me,
Dave,
with all due respect, the medical use, the medical center or clinic is allowed at University Station. So I don't understand, and residents don't understand, why are we opening up the entire town for medical centers or clinics? It's absurd and it's disingenuous. And I say that respectfully. I was the one that wrote the letter. the AG's office, municipal government law division or whatever, rejected those zoning bylaws that were adopted or approved at town meeting because people didn't understand it. And now people understand it, and we don't understand why why every single district in this town is being opened up for a medical center or clinic. Joe Doyle, the building inspector, he interprets the zoning bylaws when it's questionable. Well, this is not questionable. It's allowed in university, the UAMUD. And I think that all 5 planning board members, like I said, respectfully, need to respect what the residents are asking for. And I appreciate the chance to speak, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, Nada. Any other comments? Any other, before we vote on sending these things to the select board? All right, could I have Chris, did you make a motion or not?
I don't know if it came in the form.
I don't think anybody has made a motion, so
I don't think they have.
I'll make a motion that the planning board submit the 4 zoning articles that were discussed earlier this evening to the select board to appear on the warrant.
And is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, a roll call vote. Mr. Paff?
Yes.
Ms. Conant?
Yes.
Mr. Gotti?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So that will be, Abby will send that to the select board. And let's see, the remaining items this evening, I believe we have meeting minutes from November 17th and from December 1st. Has everybody, hopefully people have had a chance to review those meeting minutes, and are there any changes or edits to offer?
I just noticed a few typos on page 1 of 6 on the 17th, November 17th. Down towards the bottom of the page, it says something like the intent is for the planning board to consider providing clarify. I think it's supposed to be clarity on what style and design is desired, so applicants can know that upfront and design initial plans in response to the desired look. That whole sentence, I'm not quite sure I understood that whole sentence. In addition to that, clarify to clarity. But other than that, I think the minutes look good. But that was the only thing I noticed. Jess, did you see what I'm talking about? Yeah, you're muted.
No, but I can look it up.
All right.
I can't look at them right now.
Okay.
But Abby and I will look at them.
Okay.
We'll adjust it.
I just didn't understand that sentence. The word clarify to clarity, I think, is what you intended.
Probably.
Was that, that's the November 17th or?
Yeah, November 17th, page 1 of 6 at the bottom. The second to last bullet point.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see it, and I see what this is in reference to. This is when you were talking about the like design standards.
Right, no, I knew it was talking about that. That sentence, I don't know, the wording, it loses all sense of meaning to me. Anyway, I just wonder if you could tighten it up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we can explain it, I think we could approve the minutes. But if you don't know what it means, then it's
yeah, you're right. Well, it says providing clarity on what the style and design is desired, so that applicants can know that up front and design initial plans in response to the desired look. It seems like there should be a few commas in there, or maybe it's a run-on sentence. I'm not sure. What? Abby, can you?
Okay, so I'm thinking maybe if it says the intent is for the planning board to clearly convey what style and design is desired.
Oh, upfront to any potential applicant.
Yes, okay. Upfront to any potential applicant.
Okay, I couldn't understand. Seems like there's a lot of, I don't know what they're called, qualifiers or whatever in this statement. So I see what you, so they're basically saying, create a more upfront approach to what our expectations are architecturally. So an applicant knows that going in.
Yeah.
More so than what we have now.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I think that sentence now is trying to say.
Okay, so I think you can edit that to clarify, and it'll be consistent. Did anyone else have something?
Not on the 17th. There's sort of similar comment to a couple things on the first, but nothing of major significance. Just, you know.
Do you want to approve the 17th? If someone,
We'll do them one at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for as submitted from November 17th with the one change noted and discussed earlier.
I'll second that.
okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes by Mr. Paff, seconded by Mr. Gotti. Any further discussion? No other changes to those minutes? All right, we'll roll call vote. Mr. Paff,
Yes.
Ms. Conant,
Yes.
Mr. Gotti,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So those meeting minutes are approved. Moving on to the December 1st. Let's see. December 1st meeting minutes. Did anyone have any edits for those?
It looks
I had
like.
a couple of edits.
Go ahead, Deb.
On page 3 of 4, about 6 bullets up from right before public comments, I think it was. It says, Ms. Conant says, good idea to look at it. And then the prior sentence says something about housing. So it doesn't really tell you what it's a good idea to look at. We're referring to the plan to be looked at on a yearly basis. So that should be included in there so people have an idea as to what you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
And then there was just one grammatical error. Same page, right at the bottom, where it says where are, it's supposed to be our, O-U-R, and it says ARE.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Similar one on the first bullet. Mr. Gotti said he thankful.
Isn't that how you speak, Rob? I think it's incredibly accurate.
Be thankful. Okay.
All right, any other items? Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from December 1st planning board meeting with the couple of grammatical edits and the one clarifying edit that Deb made and we just discussed.
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion from Mr. Gotti, seconded by Mr. Paff to approve these December 1st meeting minutes with those edits. Any further discussion? Nope. So we'll have roll call vote. Mr. Paff?
Yes.
And Ms. Conant?
Yes.
And Mr. Gotti?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So those meeting minutes for December 1st are approved. All right, let's see. Do we have anything else on the agenda this evening?
No.
Not on the agenda, but we did, we heard from Bill kind of right at the start of the meeting. That Bill is resigning from the planning board. So he just sent an email right before. So that's why Bill wasn't here tonight, I guess. So we'll.
It's effective immediately? That's why he's not here?
Yes. Or, I mean, he said effective today. So I wasn't sure exactly of his timing, but he sent us an email kind of like right at the start of the meeting. So we'll have to work on I'll have to review the charter on, I guess, finding a fifth member.
I can answer that.
Okay.
So the state law, state law, when we've done this before, says that the planning board should meet in joint session with the select board to pick a fifth member who will serve until the spring election. And if that person chooses to run, would have to run for, if he chooses to run for the remainder of Mr. DeLay's term, so 1 year. So sometime in early January, or perhaps sooner if it can be arranged, you can meet with the select board and select a fifth member to be a planning board member until the election in the spring.
So Pat, when the election in the spring comes up, there are 2 board members whose terms are up.
Right?
Would this be
There'll be a
3
third.
open seats, or is this a special
So the
election?
2 open seats, what happens is the 2 open seats are slotted, and people can choose to run for those 2 open seats, or they can run for the 1-year seat on the remainder of the term of Mr. DeLay.
So when they pull papers, they identify which seat they're running.
That's correct.
Okay.
We've seen that for other boards. Definitely, like I think the Housing Authority recently had that happen where there was there'll be a 4-year term and a 1-year term. There's filling out the remainder of the term, and I think the planning board.
It's happened, Dave. Pardon me, but it's happened at least 2 times during my tenure on the select board, where we had planning board members not serve out their full term, and we had to fill the term out.
I ran initially on that filling.
Yeah. And when I became town council, I could no longer serve as sewer commissioner, so I had to resign from the sewer commission, and someone had to be appointed in my place. It's not unusual. The only board you can't do it for is the select board. If someone doesn't fill a term on the select board, you have to go to a special election to replace.
So timing wise, we need to get a meeting with the select board. And how do we identify people, candidates?
You can do it any way you want, but probably the best thing you can do, and what I would advise, is that people make themselves known to your chairman and the chairman of the select board if they're interested in the seat. And generally what I've seen happen is the joint meeting, both boards interview people and then vote.
Abby, do we have any hearings that we'd need a fifth member for, or if the applicant requests that we could use an alternate coming up, short term if we don't?
Not yet. Right now, we don't have any special permits, but now that I think about it, the next special permit might be that AT&T that you approved tonight. So that's the next special permit that I can think of right now. I'll have to check. I mean, other applications that are coming forward are the EIDRs, which is you need you only need 3 votes. So it's a special permit that require the supermajority. So right now we don't have any of those.
Okay. So we're not racing against the clock here for that perspective.
Not for January. Not for January.
Okay.
Right, and so there's, and also, I mean, we just have this email, so I mean, I don't know at what point it's totally official and all, so.
Oh, it's official today.
Okay. I'm just thinking that it's not necessary to rush anything, and we should definitely make people aware of this. I mean, it'll happen anyway because of town election. So assuming that there's the vacancy, then there will be a town election, in April. So I guess we could see what interest there is, and but we wouldn't want to be like rushing someone in without people knowing about it or something. There'll be an election anyway in April, but we don't want to be down.
We can continue to operate without that fifth member, assuming that you're not going to get any special permits between now and then.
So we could
The only problem with that is with only 4 members, you can have a 2-2 vote. So you don't make a decision when that happens. So you don't want to leave yourself that way for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think we wait on this. I think we contact the select board immediately. We arrange a meeting and in mid-January, and in the meantime, we get somehow word out to people or that we're in this process now.
Hasn't it been almost like a job description kind of thing? Like, I remember when there was a posting of a bunch of people interviewed. I think maybe that was when you were selected, Chris, back after Carol Chaffetz left or something.
No, there was no interview. Probably it was just pull papers. We just had to identify we were running for the 1 year.
But there was, I do remember there was a time when this happened in the last like 15 years that a planning board member was appointed.
No, we had, that's a few years, 6 years ago, we came up with the idea of an alternate planning board members. And that's when we had a joint meeting with the select board and we had candidates interested submit letters of interest. And then we interviewed them in a joint meeting at the library. And then at the end of the day, we selected by vote between the 8 people, or yeah, it was 8 people. The 2 candidates that we currently, or no, Todd Sullivan was one and Steve Rafsky, and then Steve Olenoff took Todd Sullivan's position when Todd.
If I may, Chris, Pat has just laid it out what it is, right? So it's, we meet in joint session with the select board, and then any prospective candidates get interviewed, and then we take a vote on it. So it sounds like what you're talking about is what the actual process and procedure is that Pat has laid out. So I don't know who arranges that meeting, Pat. Is that, do we make a?
Well, that should be a joint call between Dave and John Heckey, the respective chairman.
All right, so let's, we will proceed and we will advertise it however we can that, because I wouldn't want it to be just, we just pick somebody that we already know, like we don't want to, but we should definitely get it done as soon as we can, so. All right, any other items for tonight?
There is a question in the queue.
Thank you for observing that. You should not be referring to replacements as he. Okay, yeah, I was trying to be gender non-specific, but I messed up. So
Yeah, if I said anything, I apologize. It was not intended.
As do I.
all right, would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Motion to adjourn. Mr. Paff,
Yes.
Ms. Conant,
Yes.
Mr. Gotti,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well, and we are adjourned.
Stay safe, folks.
Good night.